The pump itself does not require any maintenance. Its internal battery is not replaceable, and there are no parts to clean unless the outer plastic gets dirty. Use a lightly dampened rag to wipe away any dirt on the outside. The PEM does require cleaning. To do this, unscrew both screws on the PEM and set aside. Take the lid off and then remove the impactor ring. It will lift right out. Underneath the impactor ring is the filter screen. Shake this out of the bottom. Using an alcohol swab, dampen a Kim wipe and clean the surface of the impactor ring. Always use a Kim wipe. The swab itself will leave small fibers behind on the rough surface of the impactor. If particles are noticeable in the lid or bottom of the PEM, wipe these down with a dampened Kim wipe as well. Wipe down both sides of the filter screen. Let these parts air dry. You now want to re-oil the impactor. The oil used is mineral oil and is supplied in a small bottle. Place the bulb on the end of the glass pipette and squeeze it to drop some oil. Leave droplets around the impactor ring. Wait about 15 seconds. The oil should be absorbed. If not, wipe the excess off with a Kim wipe. Your PEM is now cleaned and re-oiled. This is when you want to insert a filter. There are two types of filters you can use that have been mentioned, a Teflon or a quartz. Teflon filters are used if a gravimetric analysis will be performed after sampling. This works by having the Teflon filter pre-weighed. After sampling, the Teflon filter is weighed again and a total mass of particulate can be calculated. Quartz filters are used if knowing the composition of the particulate is desired. Both filter types need to be 37 millimeters in diameter to fit inside the PEM. No matter what type you choose, you must always handle them carefully and make sure your hands are washed. Clean your tweezers with alcohol prior to touching filters. Place the cleaned filter screen in the base of the PEM. Pick up one filter with your tweezers and lay it on top of the screen. Now place the impactor ring on the surface of the filter. Place the lid on top and screw the PEM back together. Make sure that this PEM stays clean by storing it in a Ziploc bag before it goes to the field. Filters need to always remain cold when not in use as well. Keep the PEM cold in a cooler with frozen ice packs and make sure unused filters are stored in a freezer. Before sampling can begin, the pump's flow needs to be determined. Setting it at a desired rate does not guarantee that it will actually run at this rate, so it needs to be measured. When collecting particulate matter that is 2.5 microns or smaller, you need a flow rate of at least 9 liters per minute pulled through the PEM. You will need to take flow measurements before and after the sampling event. The average of these two values will be used to calculate the total volume of air sampled. This is necessary for data comparisons later down the line. To take your initial flows, follow these steps. Take out the calibration chamber. Unscrew the lid from the plastic jar. There will be a piece of small diameter tubing extending from the inside of the lid. Use this tubing to connect the lid to the PEM. With the loaded PEM attached, close the jar again so that the PEM hangs down inside. Screw the lid on tight so that air can't get in or out. You'll notice there are two separate tubes on the outside of the chamber lid. The one at the center of the lid connects directly to the Leland Legacy air inlet. The second tube is connected to a lure adapter. This is the black plastic elbow attached to the lid. This tube goes to the BIOS DryCal flow meter outlet port. Always use the outlet port on the flow meter, not the inlet. To turn the flow meter on, press the on button. After it warms up, press and hold the read button. You will hear a click noise and green lights will be visible through the front window. Now that all the tubing is attached, you can start the pump. Press both arrow buttons at the same time to start the pump. The flow meter will start reading flows. There are two values present on the flow meter screen. The topmost one is the real-time flow that continually updates. The lower one is an average. To the right of the screen is a number that tells you what measurement is being taken. The flow meter averages its measurements until it reaches 10 measurements and then it starts over. Watch the flow number on top when you first turn the pump on. Make sure it's reading more than 9 liters a minute. Ideally, because the flow will drop throughout the sampling event, the flow should be set closer to 9.6 liters a minute. If the instrument is not reading a high enough value, you need to adjust the pump. Press the passcode sequence on the leland to enter setup. If done correctly, the word setup will appear on the screen. By pressing the star button, you can now navigate through the setup screens. One screen will say flow and will show what the leland is set to run at in liters per minute. This is generally set at 10 liters per minute. If you press the star button again, you will get to a screen that says adjust flow. This is where you can make minor changes to the flow setting. With the flow meter still taking measurements, use the up and down arrow buttons on the leland to adjust the flow. Check the flow meter and see if your flows are increasing as you press the up button. When the flow meter gives you a consistent value about 9.6 liters a minute, you can stop adjusting. Let the flow meter start over counting measurements and then record the 10th average it displays. This is your initial flow. If you did not need to adjust the flow, make sure that you wait through 2 rounds of flow meter measurements before recording the initial flow. When the leland first starts running when you turn it on, the very first measurement is always too low, so the 10th average is not correct. Wait for the second set or 20th average. At the end of a sampling event, you need to take flows again. With both initial and final flows, you can calculate an average. Final flows are calculated the same as initial ones. Simply hook the PEM with the used filter in it back up to the calibration chamber. Connect all the tubing between the chamber and the pump and flow meter. Turn the leland on and wait for the flow meter to report 20 measurements. On the 20th one, record this average. Add your final flow to the first flow and divide by 2. This value is your average flow over the sample period. The pump has one internal rechargeable battery. Plug the power cord into an AC outlet and plug the smaller end into the leland. The port is located under the small hatch on the top of the instrument.